number of big trades that culminated in yesterday's trade deadline. So going back over, not just yesterday, but the last couple of weeks, we're looking for winners and losers. Neek, give us a big winner.
Oh, I think it's the Lions. Adding Zadarius Smith to this already improving defense, I think, helps this defense get in a position to take over and end games on third and longs. Their offense is so good. That O-line is so impressive. They're going to have leads in most of the games that they play in, and they're going to need someone to help close out those games with sack fumbles and putting pressure, and I think Zadarius Smith could be the guy to help do that.
Hawk, give us a loser at the deadline.
Devontae Adams. I said this when he got traded. You went from 1 2-5 team not going to the playoffs to another 2-5 team not going to the playoffs. He is too talented to be in the middle of dysfunction, and I feel bad that next year or soon thereafter he's going to have to force his way out of another team to go to another place that is potentially a contender.
All right, Kmart, I'll reserve comment for later.
Sorry.
Kmart, give us another winner at the deadline.
Yeah, unlike Devontae Adams, Marshawn Lattimore, he's a big winner here because he goes from the Saints to, imagine, people are happy about the Commanders. Imagine that. This is a completely different team from last year. You've got a rookie quarterback who isn't playing like a rookie. This is a defense that has been playing decent, but now they get a true guy at that position. This is good for them.
Yeah, no, this is a resurgence, a rebirth of a franchise in Washington. Finally, Jeff, give us another loser.
Oh, the Dallas Cowboys. You know how you have like the draw by numbers, right? You like, and it draws a beautiful picture. Like they're going like odds and evens, so the picture's all kind of jacked up. I mean, what? They're not sellers, and I'm not even going to talk about the Mingo pickup because whatever it is, it'll be in 2 years or a year. How if Zach Martin, Diggs, Lawrence is not on the team next year? They have wildly missed again. If you're going to do this rebuild, Dak's out 4 weeks. You're not going to keep winning. If you are winning, you're just hurting yourself. You're going to draft worse. That is a loser. That is a loser all the way, in my opinion.
I think to be clear, what you're saying is they should have traded those players
Absolutely.
at the deadline. If they're not going to be long-term
sellers,
solutions,
that's right.
They should have traded them at the deadline to get something for them. But that means that someone has to want them.
Well, they acquired a player at the deadline, and this is, again, as you said earlier, we were going to play Dan Orlovsky saying it on the deadline special yesterday, but I'll just sort of paraphrase because I agree with it completely. No team seems to have less of a finger on the pulse of itself than the Dallas Cowboys do. And I think the problem begins with the fact that their owner and their general manager are the same person. Yeah. So he continues to believe in this team infinitely more than he should, and thus actually fortified yesterday rather than selling off parts. We played the soundbite in the interview yesterday. He said, we're not selling. Yeah. He didn't make this move for the future. Right. He made it to try and win games this year. And he still believes this season is salvageable. And look, God bless him if he turns out to be right, because no one I know agrees with that.
Look, they gave up a 4th-round pick for a young receiver who's on a rookie contract. We can debate that all day and tomorrow. What we all agree on is that this does not help them this year. Not only that, you remember the trade where they traded for Trey Lance? You would hope that in this situation, when your quarterback goes down, he's their backup. But they have Cooper Rush, right? There's so many issues with the Dallas Cowboys that if you're a fan, you can't help but hope that this is a move just to get started for next year, that maybe they'll be active this free agency. We have no indication of that based on previous experience, but you're hoping that this is a first piece for a new regime and a turnover to say our window is the next 2 years.
How active can you be when you have $125 million next year tied up in 2 players, and now everyone is telling me you have to pay a third one $36 million, and that would be Micah Parsons. So you're going to have 70%.
I mean,
the cap is not fake for them.
The Saints will tell you the cap is fake.
You can convert a couple of those contracts into bonus, and you amortize it over a couple of seasons. Then you have some space to fill up your roster. That's not the problem. I think the issue is us criticizing them now for this move. It's a little unfair because we all said before the season started that they made their mistakes in the offseason. Right now, there is no move. Like, for them to get an A right now, they would have to acquire 10 different players that are none of them are available. Like, this season is a wash. They're preparing for next year. They need a healthy Dak, a locked-in and healthy Micah and CD, and they need pieces
and a
around
healthy
them.
CD, and a healthy Brandon Cooks, and a healthy God. Keep going through it. A healthy Lawrence.
Can I just say, had the season started and they had addressed the running back position in a different, more intelligent way, this team wouldn't look as bad. Now, you cannot offset these injuries. you also couldn't have predicted these injuries. So there's no one guy that you could get at the trade deadline that's going to make everything better.
Right.
But I do think after week 1, I did think people thought the Cowboys were better than they were.
Yeah.
They are, but I do think had they gotten a Derrick Henry, had they even tried to get a Saquon, any guy out there, we wouldn't be looking at this offense the way we had for multiple weeks.
I think to be optimistic on the Cowboys, any rebuild, there are a couple things that are really hard to find. One is a starting quarterback. 2 is a real, true number 1 receiver. And 3 is a difference maker on defense. They have all 3 of those. They got all 3 of those.
I don't think this rebuild, call me crazy, I don't think the rebuild is something that's going to take a long time.
You just think the person who is orchestrating the rebuild.
So that is the problem.
That's the problem.
That's
you're
the
trusting
problem.
that. That's the rebuild is being held by him.
And I have to go back to the previous thing you guys said about how the cap doesn't matter. In Dallas, it does. How many times has Jerry Jones said we couldn't afford Derrick Henry? He has said it over and over and over again.
But that's not the cap. That's because Jerry didn't want to do it.
Okay,
But that's
fair
not the
enough.
cap. Don't blame it on the cap. That's Jerry not wanting to spend the money. Jerry thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and I'm going to bring in 2 running backs that are me and Neek's age, and we're going to go play. And we got a quarterback and a receiver who are going to be really good. We're going to start 2 rookies on the offensive line. They're going to be so good. We're going to shut people down on the defense that we couldn't stop a nosebleed in the playoffs last year. Yeah. All of a sudden, we're going to be better. No, like everyone said, you have to. It was not because of the cap. It's because of Jerry believing in his team that everybody else said, "Hey, Emperor's got no clothes here, bro." Like everybody else saw it. Except
and when
him.
Jeff says the cap doesn't matter, he obviously knows the cap matters, but in the short term, it doesn't.
That's what you
can kick the can down the road.
Right.
If you are within your championship window saying the cap is stopping us from adding the piece, that's when the cap doesn't matter.
Okay, so then that's fine. But I've heard both Jerry and Stephen Jones say over and over and over again how, well, when I'm paying one guy, I can't pay anybody else. You got to have 5 scholars.
That's a negotiation ploy.
PA is going to show here.
No, I mean, that's what it is. It's a negotiation ploy. It's for them to then go back to Dak or go back to CD and say, we can't do this, and for the fans and for us to be like, Dak's being too greedy.
Yeah.
That's all baloney. It's negotiation nonsense.
Exactly.
Pay the people what they deserve.
Let me say this. Gene Upshaw used to say this. If they want you, they'll find a way to pay you. And he's 100% right. Every player that a team wants, they find a way, Greeny. They find a way.
They restructure.
We'll find a way.
Fair enough. I don't think we're saying different things. We're just saying it in different ways. Whether other teams could figure out a way to do it or would choose to, the Cowboys have not. Now get up, and our next game is called, playoffs or way off. Jeff, the New York Jets, are they a playoff team or are they way off?
I got this as a way off, Greeny. And I know I thought about saying playoff just to get you excited for a minute, but there's no even reason to keep crushing dreams. I mean, I've seen so many Jets fans on the edge anyway, so I was like, you know what? We'll just start it with a way off. It's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I mean, God love you. That's all I can give you. That's all I can give you, Greeny.
Headed to Arizona this weekend. We'll root for the best. Kmart, Green Bay Packers, coming off a bad loss. Are they a playoff team or are they way off?
I'm going to say playoffs. You know what? Because I understand the Jordan Love interception, that pick 6, not his finest moment that lives in our head right now, but I think this team, when you look at, for me, it's more about the other teams in the NFC. Mm-hmm. And I still feel good about them. I think they can still go on a run. I believe in the coach. Yeah. I think this kid is talented enough. They've got the weapons. So I think they're fine.
They had a great second half run last year. We'll see if they can do it again. Meanwhile, in that division, Hawks, Chicago Bears, playoffs or way off?
The Chicago Bears are way off. Caleb Williams is regressing this season. And there is a clear misalignment between their offensive scheme and their quarterback. The O-line can't protect, and everyone has a hand in that, which has turned into mistrust from the quarterback to the O-lineman. And then the timing is off. There's miscommunication. It looks bad, Greeny, and it has for the last few weeks.
Okay, stop. Everyone stop what we were otherwise doing. I want to focus on that for a moment because if Caleb Williams is regressing, then this is literally the biggest fear of every Bears fan coming true. What do you mean by that? What are you seeing?
Just the way that the offense is designed. Now, look, it's one of two things. Either there's a lack of development, on-field development from the coaching staff, or there's an unwillingness from your quarterback to buy into the confines of the offense. And what you see on tape seems like it is the former. Now, this is the third down of the game. Me and Dan talked about this yesterday. There is an offensive philosophy. You want to give clear pictures. You want to give your quarterback clear pictures. As you notice, there are 4 receivers in the same vicinity. That is bad design. You essentially have a stop route. You have an over route into the same area on a 3rd and 8. You have a corner and another similar but different corner. That, again, it's bad design, and you're not giving your quarterback clear picture, which it forces an off-target throw. Caleb Williams leads the league in off-target throws.
Right.
Again, that is an issue offensively, and you're going to hurt his development and potentially for the long term.
This is infinite. This is important because developing him into what he has the potential to become is more important than how many games they win this year.
For sure.
Which is why it is completely incongruous to keep a lame duck coach in a position where you're trying to develop a quarterback. But we've had that conversation too many times. You said yesterday something along these lines as well, that you think the offense is very complicated.
No, I
that
think
he is being asked to run.
I do think that they're putting a lot on his plate. You can see sometimes he's changing protections. He's also making what seems to be full field reads. And it does seem like one of the things that a little secret that you learn about certain quarterbacks is they don't read the coverage as the play is happening most of the time. They've used their cadence or they use film study to know the coverage that they are going to be facing, in which case they already know where they're going to be throwing. So all the look left and look right is about misdirection. It feels like in certain situations that Caleb is actually every single time out there thinking through the whole play, which is really taxing. So I think they're putting a lot of pressure on him, but generally, I feel really good about Caleb. Like, I'm watching him play, and I'm seeing how much they put on him, and I think Shane Waldron is calling lots of screen passes, doing boots, and doing things that I think set up Caleb to play well. He manipulates the pocket really well. The results are bad. It's just wild when you hear words like regress. Hawk said he regressed. He
has regressed.
He halfway through his rookie year, he barely even gressed. He hasn't even begun to gress yet.
He's regressed.
He can't gress.
He regressed.
He hasn't. You can't progress. You can't regress. The man is just starting to gress, and we already talk about he regressing. Like, the situation is not perfect. The tough thing about the Caleb analysis for me is when you watch the film, there's a problem on when things go wrong. It's sometimes the O-line.
That's right.
Sometimes it's Caleb. It's sometimes the receivers. And
wants to go off on the field.
And now, Greedy, to your point, you can put that on coaching. But that's the hard part for me when I'm evaluating Caleb, because I do watch also, and he has plays like in that Washington game, he had a play just like the one that we freaked out for, Jay Daniels.
That's
where
right.
he hit a clutch pass with a man jumping through his chest.
Yes.
A perfectly accurate pass to put them in scoring position. Like, he's doing those things.
You're arguing 2 different things. That the regression is because of what the coaching and the development is. And you're saying all these things are because of coaching. You're arguing, is he talented? I agree. He's extremely talented. Yes, he will be better. That's why he was the #1 overall pick. Regression is you're playing worse than you were weeks before, and it is like a trajectory. It's not one bad play here. Right. It's not one bad play there. It looks like he has it less figured out than he did weeks ago.
There's a couple
of the way the coaches are designing plays.
And that's where I disagree with you. There's a couple different parts about coaching. The play design I don't have a problem with. The decision to put a bunch of cognitive load on him, I do think is a
I'm going to run out of time here quickly. Quick thought, Jeff.
I'm with Nick here. Listen, part of his development, when you call it regression, is traditional rhythm offense. And full progression reads are really hard, y'all, and they don't do it in college. So he's getting to a thing where they're running levels or they're running. Give him time. We think these guys, it's not microwave, bro.
Let him rest.
We got to let this thing simmer and then come to a boil.
The problem is because it's not just about Caleb. It's about this organization not doing right by young quarterbacks. That's the prism. That's the context. That's the context that you've got to watch this. And does anybody feel confident that Matt Eberflus is the guy in 2025 and the guy that should develop this?
You got a DB wins the Pee Wee championship. Now he's Sean McVay.
Hello.